The Eye Care Program. 35 years of alcohol, drug abuse, and violence prevention. Serving the East Baton Rouge Parish community since 1981.
Hello and welcome to Eye Care Live. I am Cecile Washington, an intern student from Southern University, and with me today is Ms. Sarah Bolognino, Eye Care intern and school psychology doctoral candidate for LSU. Today we will discuss evidence-based strategies for parents to effectively manage their children's behavior at home. And so Sarah, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to talk about this topic because it's one of those things that we just kind of assume kids should know how to behave at home. They should know what's expected of them. And that's a common misconception. Actually, we do have to teach our children how to behave just like we teach them how to tie their shoes, just like we teach them the alphabet and how to read. And so we're going to be going over some of those strategies today.
Great. So before we get into how to change a child's behavior, first can you explain why a child might behave in the first place?
Or might misbehave in
the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a lot of different reasons why a child may be misbehaving. And so the first reason could be that, they haven't been taught before, or they haven't been consistently punished or had a consequence for misbehaving. Also, children can use misbehavior to get what they want. If you think about a small child in a grocery store throwing a fit, a bit of a tantrum to get that toy that he wants or sweet that he wants, they can use it kind of as a manipulative tool to get things in their environment. Children can use misbehavior to get attention, right? They know if I do this, mom's gonna come fuss at me. And sometimes even that kind of negative attention, is still reinforcing for a child. It's attention. Children can use misbehavior to get out of doing something. So you can imagine two brothers at the kitchen table doing their homework, and he knows if I poke my brother or make him upset, then I'm going to go upstairs to my room, be sent away for 30 minutes, and I get to delay doing my homework. Also, kids can misbehave because they lack some kind of skill in emotion regulation or in vocabulary. Small children sometimes get upset, and because they can't articulate their feelings, they just resort to, hitting another student or acting out in some way. Also kids will imitate the behavior of other children or of their parents. So sometimes, kids are coming home with bad words that they've learned on the bus, or just things that they've picked up on from other students, or things that they've picked up on from the adults in their lives, right? If I'm yelling at my child to be quiet and stop yelling, that they're going to, do what it is that I'm doing and not what it is I'm saying for them to do. And of course, there are a lot of other reasons why a child could misbehave, but those are certainly the big ones.
So now for the more important question. How do parents get their children to behave? That's the magic question.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. So first, you'd want to have expectations for them and explicitly teach them those expectations. Really go over what it is that your house rules are. Make sure that you're teaching them, reviewing those, so that at any moment, if you ask, what are our house rules, they can list those off for you and really know what they mean. Then actually lay out some rewards that they can earn for behaving as they should at home, and some consequences, some punishers that are in place for if they break one of those rules or expectations, and just being really consistent about that, especially with those consequences, so that they can really learn those rules.
Okay, great. How would a parent choose behavioral expectations?
So the parent wants to choose about 3 to 5 positively worded behavior expectations. This goes against our parent nature, as usually we want to phrase them negatively, meaning, what are the rules? No hitting, no talking back, no stealing, no cheating, that kind of thing. But really we want to have the rules be things that they should do, not what they should not do. So we want to say, instead of no hitting, keep your hands to yourself. Instead of no stealing, be responsible. Instead of no talking back, be respectful. And you want them to be broad enough that these 3 to 5 rules will basically cover everything that you want them to cover. Meaning, if a child misbehaves, then they're breaking at least one of those rules. When you're developing these, it's important to make sure that all of the adult caregivers are on the same page. So co-parents, extended family members, babysitters should all be aware of what these behavior expectations are, so that they know what to reward and what to punish in terms of the kids' behavior. And so I just have some examples here that parents can choose from that are pretty universal. Using kind words, following parent directions, be safe, be responsible, be respectful, and keep hands and feet to self. So if I were to be teaching my children for the first time what the house rules are, maybe I bring them around the kitchen table. I'm going to write out those expectations on a piece of paper. After I teach them these rules, I'm going to probably post it on the refrigerator so that they can see it. We're going to talk about it, at dinner, again, to make sure that they really understand what those expectations are. So if my 3 expectations at home are follow parent directions, be safe, and be respectful, that's what I'm going over. If, I have some children who are in the early elementary school years, they're going to need a little bit more explanation as to what be respectful means, right? We want to make that really concrete and tell them specifically, okay, be respectful means playing nicely with your siblings and using kind words. You want to use really concrete language because they're going to have a more difficult time with those abstract concepts. So if I was going to talk about and introduce the be safe rule, I'm going to give a reason for it, explain it, define it, give examples of what being safe looks like, and also what it looks like to break that rule. So I could say, one of our at-home rules here is to be safe, right? We have this rule because I care about you, I want you to be safe, and I want other people to be safe. We want to protect you from harm. While being safe includes things like walking when you have scissors, looking both ways before you cross the street, looking where you're going so you don't bump into someone to possibly hurt yourself or hurt other people, not talking to strangers, and making sure that there's an older sibling or an adult with you whenever you go somewhere, and that you have permission to leave the group. Some non-examples, some things that would be in violation of this rule would be running with scissors, or diving into the shallow end of a pool head first when you could hurt yourself. not looking where you're going and bumping into someone so that you could hurt yourself. It's important that kids have, both the examples and non-examples so they really know what the boundaries are of the rule.
And they can begin processing. I like the words that you're using because those words that are safe, respectful, the same words that are used at school and other places, so
Right.
it continuously reinforces that type of behavior.
Absolutely.
So can you tell us about using consequences to punish bad behavior that's in violation of the behavior expectations?
Yeah, absolutely. Consequences are important because, again, they're going to show the child that that behavior that's violating the expectation is not acceptable. And so, when you give a punishment, it's going to decrease the likelihood that that misbehavior will occur again in the future. So we're going to talk about kind of how to deliver consequences and then just a few that you might choose to use.
Okay.
So when a child breaks a rule, say they violate the be safe expectation and they run across the street without looking both ways because they're following a ball or, whatever it is. It happens. You want to, as soon as you can, have the child come over to you to do a little meeting. And you want to go over, what did you do wrong? Hey, what did you do wrong just now? Well, I ran across the street and I didn't look both ways. Right, so which rule did you break? Well, I wasn't being safe. And then again, you want to maybe just go over the reason for this rule. This is for your safety. We want to protect you. We want to make sure that you don't get harmed or, that someone else is not harmed. And so because of that, you have an 8-minute timeout. And it's just very brief. You are unemotional when you're giving out the consequence, not yelling. You want to be respectful but firm. This can be difficult to do when you feel like your child's safety is at risk, but it's important that they know that you're not mad at them. It's just the behavior that needs to be punished because it's in violation of the rule. And then also it's important to make sure that you're consistent with doling out these consequences, meaning if the child does this misbehavior on Monday, it has the same punishment as when they do it on Wednesday, and then also consistency between siblings. So, if his brother did it and got this consequence, then when he does it, he gets that consequence, so that it's very fair.
Favoritism.
Right, and also, if when you're a child's misbehaving, if it's something that's not as serious, maybe the child just bumps into someone because they weren't looking where they were going, you can give a warning rather than jumping straight into that consequence. Say, you bumped into, Tim because you weren't looking at where you were going. That's not safe. If it happens again, you'll have a timeout. That kind of thing. And then after the child does the punishment, it's important that we just bring them right back into the fold and that there's no grudges moving forward. That's going to make sure that the relationship remains strong. The child knows that it's not me that, the parent doesn't like or is punishing, but it was just the behavior. And truly, the adults want the child to succeed and to do well, and it's the child's behavior that determines if they get a reward or a consequence.
That's good. And it's almost like the child is learning this and the parent is relearning how this process works as well, because we also mimic what we learned growing up. So that is a good point.
And so you can use timeout as a consequence strategy. A good rule of thumb here is that the length of time is the child's age in minutes. So a 3-year-old will have a 3-minute timeout, an 8-year-old will have an 8-minute timeout. You want to make sure that this is in a particular location where there is really nothing interesting going on, right? No TV that's on, no toys to play with.
Right.
A good spot is to just have a particular chair, maybe at the end of a hallway, in a guest bedroom, something like that. And the expectation is that the child just sit in the chair and think about what they did. It's important to really not engage in conversation with the child when they're in timeout. Oftentimes, especially when they're just learning how to do this, they'll plead with the parent. They'll say, "No, I don't want to." Right? They'll try to negotiate, or they'll scream, or they'll cry. At the beginning, you may have to, guide the child by the hand to the timeout spot. You may have to sit with the child And you can sit there, but you're sitting and you're ignoring. So the child learns, even if I plea, it doesn't shorten my sentence. Even if I, cry, it doesn't mean that I get out of timeout. They understand that that's their punishment. Alternatively, you can use overcorrection, right? This is kind of when there's a logical consequence to the behavior. So if I was doing the repair plus method, the child will repair the damage that they did plus do more. So if they, drew on the floor, not only do they have to mop up and clean that particular area of the floor, but they actually have to mop the whole, the whole kitchen or whatever it is.
Clean house.
Right, so that could work out to our advantage. You could also use the positive practice method, which is when they do a redo multiple times. So if the child was running across the street without looking both ways, we're going to actually go ahead and practice looking both ways and walking safely across, not once, but 5 times, 8 times, so that it's more effortful than if they were to just, have done it correctly the first time.
That's good. And as you're talking, kids are soaking this information in. They're like sponges.
Right.
And so when things happen and it's consistent, they know they can go back and tell you, yes, I didn't do this, I wasn't safe. Let me look both ways. So
And then they have the opportunity to show you, I do know what to do, and I'm willing to show you, and then you have the opportunity to congratulate them on that. So another consequence choice that you may want to go with is losing privileges. So this one, can work well if a child has maybe 30 minutes a day that they can have on their iPad, or 30 minutes a day of maybe playing a video game, maybe, a certain bedtime that, that you can set for the child where there's a 30-minute window. And if the child misbehaves, you can tell them, okay, you did this in violation of this rule. For that, you're going to lose 5 minutes of iPad time, or 5 minutes, of bedtime, or on the video games or whatever it is. This one is a great strategy for some people, but it does require a high level of organization, because you've got to remember for each child how many minutes they're losing, and also you have to really make sure to control the privilege. So if they're on the iPad for 30 minutes, we have to make sure that they don't get 2 extra hours of access to that. Otherwise, it's not going to be effective. So for that reason, this one's a little bit trickier, but it can be a good option.
So now can we talk about how to give rewards and when our children are behaving according to those behavior expectations?
Yeah, and so rewards are important because they are going to essentially ensure that they continue to behave appropriately in the future. And so when you're delivering rewards, you want to make sure that you're being warm, that they're feeling very included, that you're proud of them, and that you're really complimenting and rewarding their capability, their skill level in doing the right thing. So one really good, easy one is to use verbal praise. And as specific as you can be, the better. So you may, just say, Mariah, you have 30 minutes on the iPad tonight because you followed your expectations. You were safe, you were respectful, you were responsible. Way to go. You can even do verbal praise just kind of in the moment as a child is behaving well, especially in an area where they may have struggled in the past. So if yesterday Jalen had trouble, getting along with his brother, today when he's playing nicely, you can say, Jalen, I like the way you play nicely with your brother. Some parents prefer not to use a lot of superlatives when talking to their children, and so just bringing attention to the positive behavior without even saying I like it or way to go is still effective. So you can say, Simone, you followed all the directions I gave today the first time I asked. I'm not saying I like that she did that, but she still feels proud.
Right.
She still feels good about herself because mom noticed. You can also reward children's behavior with social rewards, earning time with friends, or earning privileges or tangibles. I like to have children earn choices. So, you can say, yesterday you behaved really well according to the expectations, So today you get to choose, you know, do we buy this cereal or this cereal at the grocery store? Do you want this for dessert or this for dessert? So this way they're free, right? It's not like I'm doing anything out of the
Extra,
ordinary,
that's right.
but they're earning the ability to make the choice.
And it's in moderation.
Exactly, exactly. And so these privileges and rewards can be doled out according to a specific system, or you know, just kind of randomly to help encourage the child's continued good behavior. And so, you know, that's just kind of a very brief overview of behavior management at home in general. There's certainly a lot more that we can talk about in terms of specific strategies or specific problem behaviors or managing behavior at school. And so if anyone wants, you know, further information, please just give us a call or an email at iCare, and I'd be happy to do a follow-up.
Great, great, great. I promised during this presentation, I said, Sarah must have a camera in my house. This is really, really good information on managing a child's behavior. You gave a lot of different examples, and so I'm sure everybody appreciates that. So thank you, everyone, for joining us at iCare Live. We look forward to seeing you next time. Have a good day.